ello se sigue construyendo un México más justo y plural, en donde todas y todos tenemos las mismas oportunidades garantizadas por la ley.
Porque México eres tú. Legislamos para todas y todos. Cámara de Diputados, Legislatura de la Paridad, la Inclusión y la Diversidad.
Únete a nuestra familia en WhatsApp. Entra a tu WhatsApp y da clic en Novedades. Después en Buscar Canales. Ahí escribe la palabra Chismirije, dale seguir y ¡listo! Entra a los canales de El Heraldo y no te pierdas de nada.
Habla Andrés Manuel López Obrador.
Después de la privatización, regresan los trenes de pasajeros. El Tren Maya, una gran...
Welcome to The New Health. I'm your host, Jessica Preston, where we meet with thought leaders in health and healthcare that are revolutionizing healthcare for a better world. We have James Maskell back with us again today. So happy you're back with us, James.
Great to be back with you all.
So previously we spoke about community and its importance when it comes to health, breaking through loneliness patterns. And we had talked a little bit about men and some work that you have done. And I would love to hear more about that if you're willing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think maybe it can help bring some of the concepts that we've spoken in previous segments, to clarity. I got excited about community because it was part of how I grew up, and also I saw the sort of beginning signs of that when you delivered this sort of new health in groups, that it was not only transformative, but it was super efficient, resource efficient. It could become like a standard of care that could save medicine. So I was like really excited about it. And at the beginning of 2019, I realized, okay, this is what the next book's going to be. And I started recording podcasts with innovators who are doing certain things. But then I had some things that summer that came up for me that were extremely tough. My business partner passed away. So my business partner of 10 years passed away. That had an effect on both of the businesses that I was running. He was running one of the businesses and he was my partner in the other one. So that was extremely tough. Being a father, living in a new city. I just moved from Los Angeles to the Sacramento area where my wife's from, and didn't really, lost all my friends and was like starting again on that end. And then, also just dealing with now having a 6-year-old and having to take some more responsibility for being a father and like how I was doing it. Also, I think being a little bit like overly obsessed with the mission, right? Having an imbalance in how I was showing up. And my partner and then my coach that I work with had suggested joining a men's group, and I was skeptical because, who isn't, right? When you never heard of that, it's not a normal thing in society to be part of, but I thought I would give it a go and to be part of it. And I've been part of it now for 5 years, and we meet every week for 3 hours on a Wednesday night. It's based on it's based on sort of Jungian concepts, and it's been transformational, and it's really brought home so many ideas that I literally wrote a book about, right? And I didn't write about my experience in the men's group in that book because I wrote that book that year, and that was just the beginning of being in the men's group. But now that I've been in it for 4 years, it's been transformational. You should have my wife on the show and she can talk about what it's been like for me, from her perspective, me being in the group. But it's been transformational for me in my personal life, in my business life, in so many different parts of my life. And I'm happy to, to share more about what I've experienced.
Yeah, I'd love to dig into that. So first of all, Jungian principles, basically for what people to understand. Can you just give a little brief? This is how you're digging in to get to have a more intimate space between you as connection. Right, between the men that you're in your group with.
I think the fundamental thing is trust, right? It's trust amongst the men and trust amongst the group. And so each session, you build trust and you build connections so that you can get into some really vulnerable places, right? Ultimately, men struggle with vulnerability. They're not able to be vulnerable. Some of the places that society tells them that it's safe to be vulnerable, like a therapist's office, you can see has not always been safe for men to just like have a complete stranger and get into like the deepest stuff straight away with a total stranger. That does not feel safe to men, and that's why I think therapy doesn't really work as well as it should for relationships and so forth. Like the outcomes are not particularly good because I think that's not a very like safe place. However, in this group, each week there's a process that we follow consistently. The first thing is like getting out what happened this week to you that could be getting in the way of you being able to like go and be connected to these men. That's the first piece. The second piece is just honoring the different archetypes. There's a big thing about Jungian thought is like there's different male archetypes. The first stage of the group is really to think is the lover archetype, and that's really about accessing feelings. One of the things that I recognized is that I was kind of numbed out through different choices, in my life, whether it be like alcohol or just in the way that I operated. I was not really feeling the range of emotions that a human is capable of feeling. And so part of the first process is to think like, how am I actually feeling now, right? And sharing that out. And I think that's been really valuable to allow me at least once a week to think, how am I feeling now? So that's the first step. The second step is trust and accountability. So that's the warrior archetype. The warrior archetype is really all about, have I been true to my word in the last week? Have I been true to my own accountability with myself? And have I been true to the accountability of the other men in the group? And being accountable to your word consistently is the foundation of trust that would allow a group of men to trust each other to a point where they could actually go into deeper work. The third round is the magician round. The third archetype is the magician round, and that's really getting into the dark stuff, really like where are we, what's going on, and in that round we're able to really think about like what is really happening for us this week, what's hot for us, and can we go through different processes to release some of that. And I had an unbelievably cathartic experience in my second ever group where I really dove into the fact that like, hey, my business partner passed away, and some things with the business went sideways because of that. And it really because my life and my mission are so intertwined, it was like affecting me in a really deep way. And I had a moment to just really like let loose some of the energy that was sitting within me. And as soon as I did that, I felt clear, and I was able to really make clear decisions about the future after that. And then the last round is the king round, and that's really honoring the other men in the group. And doing that once a week for 5 years has had a dramatic effect on, how I show up in the world, how I show up as a father, how I show up as a husband, how I show up as a leader in my businesses, and how I show up as a leader in the movement. And I never expected, I didn't think before that I needed it, but now that I have it, I realize that actually every man needs this, really.
No, that's wonderful. And I think there are a few things. Most of the men that I surround myself in my world now are doing men's work in men's groups, and it's really dramatic. The calmness that they present with, that they're connected with themselves, they connect easier with other people. I think it's important for people to know and for us to speak a little bit about how I think a lot of men would be concerned joining a group like this might let them lose their edge. From my experience, it seems like it actually enhances your ability to function in all of those areas.
I mean, I can't see any area where it's been where it's gone, anything's gone down. I think it's AIDS clarity, and also, we're on the topic of health. It's extremely healthful too. Like in that group, I have seen men, quit drinking, quit smoking, lose weight, get into new healthy behaviors consistently, be accountable, to that group in that sort of support. And so even though it's free, right, there's no cost to being a part of it. And also, it's not a health-focused event. The focus of it is not health. All the men in that group are all physically healthier than when they started or when I met them. And secondly, now that we've built 5 years of cohesion, and there's like 6 or 7 of us that have been there for a long time, built a lot of cohesion, and each new member that comes in, it's a lot easier to add them in and create that cohesion. But we've actually had really amazing outcomes with men who have come in, who have had quite dire life circumstances, and in a short period of time have been able to really transform their relationship to their spouse, to their kids, to their work, and seeing that kind of transformation makes me know, not just think, but know that this is a critical part of the recreation of a healthy society.
Yeah, so women have so many social groups already. I mean, they have so much in that socialization space that it's more natural. So I love seeing that men are doing this more, and I think it's important for, as a woman or as women, to know that this is a place where women shouldn't be. Men should be in connection and community in this way. Think about old societies when it came to great-grandparents, grandparents, parents, children in that community, sitting by the fire, having the same.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're not, it's not really new, right? It's really coming back to sort of other ways of being. It's actually looking at ways that we, evolved, adapted to be in society, right? We used to live in communities of 150. There's Dunbar's number research about what kind of safety is created in what sort of groups. So we're really just, we're dealing with the fact that that third pillar in community has fallen away so dramatically, and we're just rebuilding, that third pillar. And there's lots of different ways to do that, but I think it's absolutely critical to a highly functional society.
So I know of a couple men's groups. I know there's one called Mankind Project, and that one is global.
Yeah.
And are you aware of any other groups that are more, and are smaller, like church men's groups? I've seen those. How else could people find these types of men's groups? Yeah, so Mankind Project is the group that I'm part of as well, and there's integration groups all across the world, and they have weekend groups. My friend Andrew Horn runs a group called Junto. I think it's wejunto.com, and that's like weekend events for men that I think is really powerful. There are other groups that are created around fitness, right? So there's fitness-based ones, there's faith-based ones, and there's more and more emerging all the time. It's one of the green shoots actually that I see in the sort of men's health movement. Men's health is really in crisis, like the chronic disease, the suicide, the loneliness, all of these things are going up dramatically. We see the first time in history that the life expectancy of a group of people, men in America, has gone down. And so these are some of the green shoots that I'm seeing, that more and more men are being called to be in community with other men in healthy ways. I'm seeing that it's actually working. Yeah, it works. Yeah, I say I'm seeing that more men are saying yes, seeming to say yes. Yeah, and talking about it publicly, I think, is one of the key things to aid adoption. Yeah, I'm really glad we spoke about that today. Yeah. So, James, thank you so much again for being here. Could you please let everyone know how they can reach you? Yeah, my website is jamesmaskell.com, and then you can also find me on Instagram, Mr. James Maskell. That's where I'm most active, and look forward to connecting with you. Thank you again. Join us again next week when James will be back to talk a little bit more about health and community. And please stay tuned after these messages for our next guest.
If you're on supplemental oxygen, heavy and awkward tanks can be a burden. Now, you can leave home and leave the tanks behind with Inogen, portable oxygen therapy that moves with you.
With my Inogen, now I'm able to do the things that I've always loved. I just press the button here, and there's my oxygen.
Inogen systems are so small and light, you're free to leave the house without the hassles of an oxygen tank.
I could play golf again. I could go grocery shopping. I'm free again.
With the Inogen, I can handle my own oxygen. I can carry my own oxygen. I go anywhere with this. Look how small it is.
And right now, you can try an Inogen portable oxygen system for 30 days risk-free. Call us right now. If you qualify, we'll send you an Inogen system to use for 30 days risk-free. Your insurance may even cover your new Inogen system.
If you're on oxygen, you need to be using an Inogen.
Call 800-367-1753. That's 800-367-1753. Are you nearly maxed out on your credit cards? It doesn't matter if you're using your credit cards for fun or to survive. At the end of the month, your statements come in, and you can either pay them or you can't. If you can't, late fees and interest rates get tacked on. And now you're struggling just to make the minimum payment due. Do you feel trapped? Am I talking to you? Good, because I personally researched some companies that can help you. They may be able to reduce your credit card balances by 50% and stop the late fees. If you qualify, please call our special debt hotline number right now for a complimentary free 5-minute consultation. Deal with your credit card problem now before it gets much worse and put more money back in your pocket. Trust me, I've been there too. Call right now.
Call 855-993-2096 right now. That's 855-993-2096.
Are you nearly maxed out on your credit cards? It doesn't matter if you're using your credit cards for fun or to survive. At the end of the month, your statements come in, and you can either pay them or you can't. If you can't, late fees and interest rates get tacked on. And now you're struggling just to make the minimum payment due. Do you feel trapped? Am I talking to you? Good, because I personally researched some companies that can help you. They may be able to reduce your credit card balances by 50% and stop the late fees. If you qualify, please call our special debt hotline number right now for a complimentary free 5-minute consultation. Deal with your credit card problem now before it gets much worse and put more money back in your pocket. Trust me, I've been there too. Call right now.
Call 855-993-2096 right now. That's 855-993-2096.
Welcome back to The New Health, and we are here again with Adam Lane-Smith, the attachment specialist. In the last few weeks, we've gotten a lot of questions, Adam, about avoidant attachment and relationships, and I was wondering if you could elaborate a little bit on that for us.
Absolutely. I get this question so often. I had to build a program around it because people are obsessed with avoidant attachment in their romantic relationships. So if you're at home asking these questions, you're not alone. Avoidant attachment style does pretty much wonderfully everywhere in life except romantic relationships. This is where they start to fall apart. And it's not their fault. It's because they are driven by novelty dopamine. So they jump into a relationship, and for the first 6 months, you get novelty dopamine, which this is new, you're new, those are new. Everything is new and fun and exciting, so the sex is amazing, it's passionate, and they understand dopamine, the avoidant person, so they try to give dopamine to the other person and make them feel good. It's a temporary exchange of good feelings. They don't mean to manipulate you, usually. They're very ethical most of the time. They don't mean to hurt you, and they don't understand that other people are bonding more deeply through a different bonding hormone. So they're giving dopamine, and it exchanges. But at 6 months, that falls off a cliff, and you need to start renewing that dopamine. This is where people start saying, I'm just not feeling it. Maybe we should spice things up in the bedroom with these toys or these activities or this extra person. All kinds of things start flooding in to try to make the relationship continue. Some avoidant people at this point do start fantasizing about other partners. Many of them, most of them push that off, and they will not cheat because they're very ethical and they're focused on their principles. But some of them do feel tempted in that direction because that's all they understand is dopamine. So the partner starts detecting that and says, well, maybe they're cheating on me, maybe that's happening. And they're usually not. They're not fulfilled, and they don't know how to get fulfilled. This is where a lot of, if the avoidant is a man, the other woman, the woman in the relationship will start to say, why doesn't he understand what I'm offering? Why doesn't he want to connect with me and get this nurturing? Why is he not coming to drink from this well? I have all this water to feed him. And he's over there going, man, my throat's really parched. Oh, well, I guess I'll just live this way for the rest of my life. And he has no idea how to access that oxytocin bonding, the serotonin, the vasopressin, any of that in the relationship.
So my question is this the same for men and for women?
Ooh, great question. Because most avoidant people are men. There are quite a few avoidant women as well. Most anxious people are women, but there are quite a few anxious men as well. The thing to know is this, okay? Oxytocin, one of its major roles is in breastfeeding, also in birth, and uterine contractions and a number of things. It does a lot of things. So the female system is designed around oxytocin. Oxytocin releases in the absence of stress and cortisol. When you feel calm, when you feel safe, you're on a calm walk with your partner, you're holding hands, you're romantic, you're on a date, you're engaged fully but no stress. That's oxytocin. And a lot of women prioritize this kind of bonding because it feels incredible. Men have receptors for this, but men have more receptors for a hormone called vasopressin. Now, vasopressin is important when you have a stressful life. You have to achieve, you have to grow. Men would hunt the mammoth together, and we would bond with other people that helped us overcome and decrease stress. So when men achieve things with you or with their friends, guys are playing Call of Duty together and taking out the other squad, when you go to war together, when you build something together, you build a company together, you go through trial together, you release a chemical that says, we are a good team. I love this. I'm connected to you. Let's never lose this. That's vasopressin bonding. Men have more receptors than women do. And when your oxytocin receptors get blocked by that high cortisol so that you can't oxytocin bond, guess what? The vasopressin receptors are still there, and your oxytocin receptors shift into accepting more vasopressin. So it is ready for wildfire to rage through there and bond. So when women can learn to vasopressin bond with their avoidant man, the bonding is incredible. This is what keeps him bonded to you for life and makes him passionate, opens the door usually for him to start oxytocin bonding with you and build phenomenal trust.
This is great. So I guess I have two questions on that. One is sex, orgasm. We know with orgasm, women release oxytocin. I believe men do as well.
A little bit.
Is that, yeah?
A little bit. It's different for us. We do get some oxytocin. It appears to move the fluid. And you can bond through deep levels of oxytocin, but you're going to bond better even during sex with vasopressin, which is incredibly important.
And vasopressin release for men, though, is with working together, solving
achieving things together.
Achieving things
which,
together.
You know what?
Also can be in the bedroom, though.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So this is what most women miss, is most women walk into the bedroom experience, okay? And they are trying, if they're anxiously attached, they're approval seeking, they forget their own body exists, and they try to please him, and they have very low oxytocin anyway, so then they struggle to achieve much arousal. They struggle to achieve that first orgasm, because that you need a lot of oxytocin to build to that. And then they can't have multiples, and that really reduces your fertility rates. If you have no orgasms, your fertility rates are often fairly low. It also creates a really big problem when you're breastfeeding later. If you do get pregnant, it creates a problem during birth. You may have to have a C-section because you're not able to move the baby through properly. They may have to give you Pitocin, which is more synthetic oxytocin that forces it out. So that's incredibly important for women to have that aspect, that nurturing, that emotional intimacy. But for men, it's more vasopressin bonding is what you're going to experience. So what is one thing that the couple could achieve together during that sexual experience? Well, it's usually the female orgasm. That's something you can both work toward diligently. And this is why when a man loves a woman, and ladies at home, hopefully you've experienced this. Guys at home, you know what I'm going to talk about here in a minute. When he really loves her, what does he do? Babe, we're going to do 10 of them today. You're going to have 10. We're going to have to drag you out of this room at the end. We'll have a wheelchair ready for you. And she goes, I don't want 10. I could barely get one. What she's doing, if she's faking it, shutting it down, I don't care, right? What she's doing is shutting down that vasopressin bonding he's trying to do with her. He is trying to achieve arbitrary, weird, random goals, but it's putting a number on it. And then you're going to high five. You're half dead in the bed, but he's like, high five, we did it. and you can do that. This is one way of vasopressin bonding together in the bedroom, is achieving that together.
So then how can that man and woman connect more on that? I mean, I don't think that sitting down and having a checklist is probably the most romantic idea for them. So for some people it may be. Right. So what would you recommend for these couples to do?
It begins way before the bedroom. So being able to talk about the things in the bedroom that will help achieve an orgasm or multiples actually comes from that practice is way too hard. So you start at, well, okay, what are your basic goals? Can we align on our goals? What are your principles? Can we align on those? We've talked, and here you guys are recognizing the early levels of trust, levels 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. If you build a level 4 trust together, what we would call a secure attachment, then you can talk about problems here. Well, what's working on our marriage? What's not working in our marriage? What's working in our relationships? What's working in our home? How can we solve problems together? And that lowers the difficulty then to be in the bedroom and say, hey, we just had sex. That was so great. What can we do next time that's going to be more fulfilling for you? I noticed, you kind of had a difficult time reaching orgasm. And she doesn't go, oh no, he noticed. She says, yeah, that's true. I did kind of have a hard time. Well, great. It's great that we've called it out. Let's work on this together. How can we improve your process for next time? How can we make you have a better, and she'll probably say, well, more eye contact. more touch my face. Don't just stare at my boobs. Touch my face. Talk with me a little bit. Hey, before, can we do some more warm up, right? That foreplay that we laugh at women for needing, that's a boost of oxytocin. So oxytocin during the day, holding hands, hugging, connecting. Oxytocin then in that non-sexual touch, right? Hugs, connections, caresses. Oxytocin through great conversation, leading into oxytocin with foreplay, leading into oxytocin in the intimacy, in the intercourse act, if that's what you do. And then leading further into the orgasm, into more orgasms, because an orgasm gives you oxytocin each time. It's a chain effect, but you have to build it over time, and your partner needs to be engaged with you building that.
Now, for men during the day, with all of this oxytocin release, holding hands, do they have a vasopressin release throughout the entire, through the same, or what? How can women help men with their for preparing?
Now this is a hard topic. What can women do for men, and can men accept it? So avoidant attached men cannot accept the bonding that women are going to give them, typically, because what women are going to offer you, right? We see on the internet all the time, what do women bring to the table? What do they bring to the table? They bring oxytocin bonding. They bring that GABA to soothe your nervous system. They bring that serotonin to really give you deep, fulfilling connection and contentment. They do bring vasopressin bonding to you as well, and they reduce your cortisol levels consistently so that you can enter a peace mode, right? There's an old joke, and it's a little inappropriate, but if the man is the sword, the woman is the sheath. But when you put the sword away, then you have peace. So how can a man allow that? We can talk about that in the future, but men need to be open and able to receive that. And when you have high cortisol and avoidant attachment style, you cannot receive that oxytocin. So it looks like women offer you nothing except sex.
Wow, that's such a challenge. So how would we, then what would be the best? We were talking about men before and connection with other men and
that's an important aspect, honestly, is men going through this process. If you are avoidantly attached out there right now, high-performing business owner, that's great. Start focusing instead, maybe on the women in your life. Start with a male friend that you can trust. Run through those 4 levels of trust that we've talked about in the last couple of weeks. Go back and watch it again. That would help. But go through those 4 levels of trust. Find a male friend that you can begin solving problems with. And then you don't talk about your problems and cry. You talk about them in what's called a solution-focused approach or a selective approach so that you can share, here's a challenge I'm experiencing, here's what I'm going to do about it, I'd love you to keep me accountable on it. Have you ever had a problem like this? Tell me about it if you have. Let's solve these problems together. And then what problems are you experiencing? If you can go through those 4 levels of trust with one male friend, you'll begin vasopressin bonding. That opens the door for oxytocin bonding. Suddenly you can experience it. Now you can go home and experience it with your wife or your girlfriend.
That's great. That's great. So you can actually experience, I like the idea of feeling. Like, how do you feel in your body when it comes to these neurochemistry changes? So when a man then feels that vasopressin bonding with a male friend, they can feel more settled in their nervous system?
Absolutely. The number one thing when male coaching clients come into me that we work on first is the 4 levels of trust, and then who in their life they can do that with. Sometimes, yes, it's their wife or their girlfriend, but the threshold is very high and it feels very risky. So instead, they find a male friend, and that's where I point them at first. And as they begin to really bond that way, then suddenly they don't feel like a lone ape in a tree fighting off predators. They feel like a lone ape who suddenly has a good, trusted friend at his back. Now you can rest. Now you calm down. And that proof of concept that someone else is trustworthy, that suddenly questions everything you've ever believed. And now maybe you can go home and talk to your wife.
That's wonderful. Well, thank you so much to Adam Lane-Smith here with us again today. Tell us how everybody in the audience can reach you and can find you.
Sure. So I am on adamlanesmith.com is my website. I did build a program for fixing this called How to Love an Avoidant Man, so that is on there. Coaching with me is also available there, and I'm on every social media platform. I have a huge presence right now. I'm honored to be able to teach that many people.
Well, thank you so much. And be sure to join us again next week when Adam Lane-Smith will be back to speak with us about attachment styles some more. And please stay tuned after these messages for our next guest.
If you're living with diabetes and using insulin, you know the pain of pricking your fingers over and over again. By wearing a small device called a continuous glucose monitor, or CGM, you can reduce the pain of pricking your fingers right away. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline today and learn about the latest CGM technology. Not only can a CGM immediately reduce pain, it's accurate, easy to use, and helps you make better diabetes treatment decisions. And if you have Medicare or private insurance, you can see if you qualify for a CGM at little or no out-of-pocket cost. We'll also provide free shipping of your new CGM, and we'll bill your insurance company for you. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline to see if you qualify for a CGM at little to no out-of-pocket cost.
How would you like to go on a 5-star vacation for just $99? We're talking about the quality of a Westgate resort for $99. Not for one night, but for 3 fantastic nights at one of their luxurious destinations across the United States. And you'll even get a free $100 Visa gift card just for making a reservation. We've got some of the choicest destinations that you'll love in the United States that you can choose from for just $99 for a 3-night stay. Take your family, take a special loved one, but get away. Go on vacation with Westgate Resorts. Call now to make a reservation for just $99, and you get a free $100 Visa gift card. Call Westgate right now and book your vacation. Here's the number.
Call 877-930-3491. That's 877-930-3491. Again, 877-930-3491.
Welcome back to The New Health, and back with us today is Dr. Heather Gessling. She's a family physician working direct primary care in Missouri. Welcome back, Dr. Gessling. We're so happy you're here again.
Oh, thanks. I love being with you.
This is so much fun. I love that we speak so much of the same language and we're very passionate about the same topics, so I think we're going to get a lot of interest moving out there in the world. So last week we spoke about GLP-1s, medications for weight loss, the pros and the cons. And we had mentioned just a little bit about seed oils, and we had a question or two come back from our audience about seed oils. So why don't we talk a little bit about seed oils and these oils that aren't very helpful for us and that can be inflammatory?
Yeah, let's do, because a lot of people don't know the dangerous inflammatory effects of seed oils. Another name is vegetable oils. These are things like soybean oil, corn oil, canola oil, even safflower and sunflower oil, grapeseed oil. So the mainstream media or food industrial complex, they have touted canola oil as heart healthy. They've named them vegetable oil, which makes them sound healthy. Really, they're industrial oils. They are this sludge that gets formed, and then they have to go through this chemical process to purify it and make it clear again. It's a disgusting process. There's nothing natural about them. They are the opposite of what you want to be ingesting. The education about heart disease has been, I think, completely wrong. The patients that, have a heart attack or stroke, their nutritional advice that they're given in the hospital is to just start eating seed oils such as canola because it's heart healthy, which is atrocious and astounding, and it's a lie. It's wrong. Patients should be eating real foods, real fats, real oils, not be afraid of healthy saturated fat, because it's the kind that is non-inflammatory. It does not contribute to heart disease. Heart disease happens from inflammatory molecules like sugar, high fructose corn syrup, and seed oils. And so getting rid of those things is what can reduce your risk of heart disease. Adding in real foods such as butter, red meat, coconut oil, avocado oil, extra virgin olive oil, those are the things that can reduce inflammation in your system, which would then lead to reduced cardiovascular inflammation and plaque formation.
Oh, this is great information. So I do want to say a lot of people listening are probably saying, but wait a minute, my canola oil has that little heart healthy stamp on the label. And so why am I going to believe you? I'm not believing the label on our canola oil, but this is truly an inflammatory oil. And I know when we talk about saturated fat, unsaturated fat, when you're talking about saturated fat like butter and you're talking about meat, you're talking about real foods to eat, how are we speaking to our patients about them, having them understand that those really are healthy?
Yeah. So, you know, what I try and do is just use common sense and help them realize what's real. What did God create for us to eat? Do you think that he wants to replace his real product with a chemical detergent laden disgusting oil that was made in a factory? It just makes no sense. And this whole concept of saturated fat being the devil, or even elevated cholesterol, LDL cholesterol specifically, being the cause of heart disease is just not based in science. I think that there is a heck of a lot of propaganda that has been pushed out through the sugar industry, through medical societies, through pharmaceutical companies that have utilized this lie about LDL cholesterol and saturated fat to make us even more unhealthy. I think that their agenda is to do the opposite of what they state. It's made us completely unhealthy. Our weight has increased, cardiovascular disease has increased, diabetes have increased by people following that advice. When you get back down to the basics and you remove sugar, you remove these inflammatory oils, you remove the toxic food that is so common in the grocery store, health returns, you reverse the disease, you lose weight, you feel energetic again, you start glowing again, your skin clears up. And so I would say that if you've heard it in the mainstream media, you probably should be doing the opposite.
So where do we direct people? Everyone is reading conflicting information. So how do we help people? And that's part of my purpose and drive also, especially on the New Health, is getting the real evidence-based information out there. So how do we give people the right resources so that they can learn about these inflammatory drivers of heart disease and other inflammatory aspects in our body?
Yeah, there's several books that have been written, and also you can just start getting good at, you know, if it's a mainstream media source, it's probably wrong. You can start going to alternative sources that are going to be more likely to tell you the truth. There's a book called the LDL Myth, I think, is one of the main books. You can just start researching inflammatory effects of seed oils. You can start looking at true causes of heart disease. I like to encourage my patients to just start being ready to be skeptical and dive in to things like never before and start questioning everything. Even if what I'm telling you, you should go do your own research and question it. I don't want people to take anything at face value anymore. Also, things change, and so we learn new things, and we learn new things because people are continuously questioning and researching, which is so important. And I would just, like I said earlier, get back to the basics and realize that real food, real fat, real protein, not all of this processed stuff with chemicals and sugar and high fructose corn syrup and seed oils is the way to be with your diet.
Oh, this is great. So let's do a little deep dive now. All of our people are saying, okay, opening their pantry after listening to Dr. Gessling today. Where do I start? What would we have them remove if you were pick 3 to 5 things that we're going to remove and replace? Let's help people overhaul their kitchens today.
Oh, let's do. So I would say if it has a list of more than 4 ingredients, it's probably no good. If it's a protein powder that has 30 ingredients, I would say that needs to go. If it's got sugar listed, that needs to go. High fructose corn syrup, that needs to go. And then, like we've talked about on this segment, all of the seed oils, and those, or another name is vegetable oils. So soybean oil, which is in literally like 80 to 90% of what's in the middle part of the grocery store, it's in everything. It needs to go. And when you go and buy mayonnaise, and the main brand of mayonnaise has on there that it's avocado oil mayonnaise or olive oil mayonnaise, don't believe it. Turn it around. The first ingredient is probably soybean oil. So that next ingredient that you got to check is the seed oils, the vegetable oils. It's going to be in probably I have looked at every single salad dressing that's in the grocery store in the main section, not the organic section. I have looked at every brand. Every single salad dressing has soybean oil, maybe canola oil as its first and second ingredient. It's incredible. So get rid of the seed oils, and you'll be on your way to good health.
So when we're removing our seed oils, so getting rid of our canola oil, our vegetable oil, soybean oil, and now what are we replacing it with? Olive oil, avocado oil?
Yeah.
Tell us what we should be putting in
avocado oil. Yeah, so when I talk to my patients about this, they say, oh, well, I don't cook with that. I use avocado oil, or I use olive oil, or I use butter. And I'm like, that's fantastic. But go look at what's in your refrigerator. Go look at what's in your pantry, and you'll realize that so much of your food has those seed oils in them. And I think that there needs to be a revolution, people standing up and saying, I'm not buying these products anymore that have these inflammatory oils in them. Or asking at the restaurant, are you using real butter to cook with? Or are you giving me margarine? Or what are you cooking with back there? I think that patients need to start being their own advocates as far as standing up against these poisonous ingredients.
Yeah, and the whole grocery store theme is shop around the outside of the store, not the inside of the store, right? So if that's where your fruits and vegetables are, that's where your meats are, as opposed to going to those middle rows where you can find all of those inflammatory foods, boxed foods, processed foods.
Exactly. You got it. That's exactly right.
Oh, that's wonderful. Real quick, because we're down to our last few minutes here, yes or no for protein powder?
I just don't like it. A lot of times patients are using protein powder in the morning, and they probably don't even need to be getting calories in the morning. And I'm a big fan of intermittent fasting. But protein powders have so many harmful chemicals and ingredients. And a lot of times they're either have sugar as a component or artificial sweeteners. Very commonly artificial sweeteners, which are going to affect your gut health and cause some insulin dysfunction. And I just say that, if it's all ground up and it's got all of those chemicals, and you're just getting macro doses of a lot of that stuff, I don't think it's the right thing. It doesn't seem, in my mind, to be the healthy, basic way of eating. Also, you're not masticating, so you're not getting those digestive juices flowing. You're not getting that digestive process going. And so a lot of times when you aren't masticating and you drink that protein shake, that gets absorbed so quickly into your bloodstream. Unlike if you're chewing and it has to kind of get broken down, that rapid absorption into your bloodstream can cause some insulin chaos, insulin secretion, over secretion of insulin, because you get such a rush of that protein shake into your system, which is also problematic.
Thank you for that. I always want to know that one protein powder question. Thank you so much for coming back with us again today, Dr. Gessling. Could you please tell us a little bit about what you're doing and how people can reach you?
Yeah, so I have a direct primary care practice in Missouri. So if you're in Missouri and are interested in looking into that, my website is Gessling Family Wellness. I have 2 locations in Boonville and Macon. And then also I'm doing a detox project with my good friend Christian Elliott, and we're working at helping patients detoxify from multiple things. And we have our next free 2-day seminar in September, and you can find us at www.healingunited.today. You got to put in that full web address, I do believe. And then also you can find me on Twitter at @Gessling. I'm on Facebook, Heather Gessling.
Thank you so much, Dr. Gessling. Always a pleasure to have you on. Look forward to having you back next week with us. So for those of you watching, please join us next week when Dr. Gessling comes back with us again. And stay tuned after these messages for our next guest.
If you're on supplemental oxygen, heavy and awkward tanks can be a burden. Now you can leave home and leave the tanks behind with Inogen, portable oxygen therapy that moves with you.
With my Inogen, now I'm able to do the things that I've always loved. I just press the button here, and there's my oxygen.
Inogen systems are so small and light, you're free to leave the house without the hassles of an oxygen tank.
I could play golf again. I could go grocery shopping. I'm free again.
With the Inogen, I can handle my own oxygen. I can carry my own oxygen. I go anywhere with this. Look how small it is.
And right now, you can try an Inogen portable oxygen system for 30 days risk-free. Call us right now. If you qualify, we'll send you an Inogen system to use for 30 days risk-free. Your insurance may even cover your new Inogen system.
If you're on oxygen, you need to be using an Inogen.
Call 800-367-1753. That's 800-367-1753.
Do you have a car sitting around you want to get rid of? Well, here's a great idea. Donate your car now to help local veterans in your area. Yes, just make one fast call to the Veteran Car Donation Program. Within a few days, we'll come and remove your car for free. You can donate any car in any condition. We'll use our vast network to sell it. The proceeds raised go to help local veterans and their families. And you get a tax deduction. And all you need to do is make this free call. Clean your yard up, get rid of an old car, and help the vets. We make it easy. Make this free call now. Book your fast and easy pickup. Call the Veteran Car Donation Program now.
Welcome back to The New Health. And back with us today is Dr. Cheng Wan, CEO of the Texas Center for Lifestyle Medicine. Welcome back, Dr. Wan.
Thanks so much. I'm happy to be back.
So today I would love to talk about, we've talked about groups, what you're doing in work,
Yeah.
and I'd love to talk about the work you're doing in mental health,
Yeah.
and talk about the mental health crisis.
Yeah, absolutely. So, whenever we say the words mental health, I think it means different things for different people. To me, there's no distinction between mental health or brain health or physical health, because we know that mental health is stimulated from the environment and the relationships that we have. And as human, we all have the same struggles, right? And so I think mental health has gotten a bad reputation because the concept is that in a westernized society, sort of the go, 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 like let's keep high-paced society, is that we almost have this idea that mental health is something that I can just deal with, right? It's true, you can also deal with physical health as well. But what happens is people don't tie the physical health to the mental health aspect of life, because we know loneliness and isolation is the #1 risk factor in driving all chronic disease. It doesn't matter if it's cancer, diabetes, et cetera, right? So we can't see it as two separate things. And so my dream is this. My dream is not to call it mental health, it's health, it's part of health, right? But my dream is also to honor mental health even before physical health, because your behavior changes everything in all disease states, even if you have a family history of it, right? And so, and that is the big dream here. And so the challenge is it's not accepted in the medical community right now. And the other challenge is insurance has like mental health benefits and medical benefits, which is dumb. But I see why it was done, but it also marginalized the psychiatrist as someone who's, you know, just trying to get someone to do something. So almost like they're manipulators, but that's not what psychiatrists do. They're very loving people. And so the field of mental health, I think, requires that big paradigm shift.
Oh, that's great. So we're talking, you said, keeping mental health and we have physical health separate and having them together and having them just as an overarching umbrella of just overall health.
Yeah.
But I think as patients or people, when we think of mental health, we think, I'm feeling a certain kind of way, I need to buck up. And they kind of go from there and then just keep on plowing through. If we can talk a little bit about that, and then what happens with your health in that state?
Yeah, I'll tell you that through stories.
Okay.
So someone can come in and their posture's like this. Maybe they got dark circles around the eyes, they haven't really slept. They come in and their blood sugar is kind of high, right? And their foot kind of hurts, okay? And so what happens is that there's stress that's being dealt with by the person, or even depression, and it's affecting the posture, and it's affecting sleepless nights, right? So what happens is that when you carry your stress here, your shoulders comes up, okay? And when your shoulder comes up, you have muscles in your neck that get contracted to keep the collarbone up, the clavicle, as well as the first 3 ribs. Well, what do the ribs do? They allow you to breathe. They allow your lungs to expand. So what happens is if you don't move around, or if you're having shallow breath, which a lot of people with anxiety do, then your lungs literally will collapse, especially on the bottom part. So this is a term called atelectasis. Back when I did hospital medicine, we saw in the ICU all the time. And then we had to get the patients up in physical therapy, walk-in, even psychotherapy and counseling to get the people to brighten up. So why? So they don't develop pneumonia from the lungs collapsing in the hospital. Well, that's happening out in the real world as well. The other part is screen time. All right, mental health and ADHD and ADD in kids, it's associated with increased screen time. What happens when you're playing games and stuff on the screen? You're also not breathing, everything's up here. So excitation also restricts your body to breathe. And guess what? We need air. We're aerobic creatures, right? So it affects the way we breathe, it affects our posture, and it actually decreases the way we detoxify. So if your posture is like this, where your head's tilted forward, you get a little bump in the back of your neck, and your shoulders up right there, the channels to detoxify the brain get blocked up, and then you develop mental health issues. That's even worse. You develop dementia and memory loss, right? And so there's this beautiful system of detoxification of the brain called the lymphatic system that has a plumbing problem now, because you can't like dump the toxins from the brain, right? So what does that affect? It affects your hormones, it affects neurotransmitters, it causes early menopause, it causes early menarche, right? It causes the ability for cells to divide really rapidly, which means at the end of that we call it cancer, right? And so there's mechanisms that's modified by the way that we breathe. And as a society, we're constantly suffocating. And that suffocation triggers these mental health disorders. And that's the big problem that we're trying to face right now. So we can't see mental health as something that's different than physical health.
So what I'm hearing from you also is, so in the very beginning of that story was somebody who was saying, I'm not feeling good, I'm feeling anxious, depressed, dysthymia, low-grade depression, something like this.
Yes.
I'm going to buck up. And then they go through that cascade of events that you just discussed. And then at the end of that, it exacerbates an even greater mental health disorder.
Yes, the term buck up, where did that come from? Well, you're about to get on a horse is about to buck. You're about to buck back, right? So it's a fighter stance, right? And as in a fighter stance, you're not breathing, you're waiting for someone to punch you or you punch them, that fight or flight stage. But what's happening is that the other opponent may really be your thoughts. And it may be your expectations of yourself that you're not meeting, right? and maybe beliefs that may be limiting. I'm not worthy, I'm not good enough, I have to have everything perfect, I am not safe. So these are examples of beliefs that may be limiting us, that's triggering our posture to kind of clench up. And we have this beautiful network of connective tissue called the fascia, F-A-S-C-I-A, if you want to look it up, the fascia. And the fascia's job is to protect us. It puts us in what I call it the roly-poly mode. We kind of roll up, and that's what bucking up really is, right? But you can't breathe when your fascia's tight. You have pain. You get issues with joint pains and muscle pains. You get issues, and it can long-term lead to things such as fibromyalgia or plantar fasciitis or TMJ issues, right? And so what we're seeing is that doctors right now are just kind of treating the physical symptoms, but what about the bucking up? The bucking up is the actual origin of why these things are happening in the first place. So we have to train people either not to buck up or get them to figure out, if you're bucking up, what are you really bucking up for? What are you fighting, right? Is there really an enemy, or is there a perceived reality that has to be shifted? I'll tell you my most greatest equation, math equation of all time, is expectations minus perceived reality equals disappointment. So the higher expectations are, the worse outcome you have, outlook you have for yourself and perceived reality, the higher disappointment. And I'm not telling people to lower their expectations, I'm telling people to flip the perceived reality to a much higher perceived reality. And that's what we actually do at Texas Center for Lifestyle Medicine.
I think that's great. So that buck up, I think what the disservice we've given to ourselves is we are in a society where we're told the more you do, the more we should be proud of ourselves, and the people in our lives should be proud of us as well.
Be in a hurry to don't and not be in a hurry to do. When you don't, you become present, grounded in the present. When you do, you become grounded in the future. We call it anxiety.
And if you are in that space of don't, where you can be present, then do you find that people are having less of that, buck up feeling, less of that, grind?
Yes, however, we have to honor the fact that the buck up feeling allowed us to be born, allowed us to exist the way we are. The bucking up feeling is required for multi-generational survival of Homo sapiens, of humans, okay? There's nothing wrong with bucking up, but when you do it for 24/7 and you can't sleep, that's where it creates this disease. And disease is dis-ease, uneasiness, right? Disease started from dis-ease or uneasiness, which starts from discomfort, right? So if you're bucking up all the time, it's not really comfortable either.
How are you helping people find that balance? Because we do know we need resilience, and we read about resilience. We must still be resilient in some way, but we're just pushing it too far. How do we help those people that are in that space, which is the majority of people, find that balance?
It's very simple, 2 words, and a lot of times I say it, people get uncomfortable. It's called unconditional love. Unconditional love. So unconditional love means this, is we will provide connection and love without a condition. You can be bad, you can be good, you can be whatever you are. We take you as you are, right? Doesn't matter your race or gender, what you identify with, doesn't matter what history you've had, what family history you have, right? What socioeconomic status. Like, show up, be you, be authentic. I'll show up and be me, I'll be authentic as well. And then when we have an authentic conversation, that's where safety comes in. It's a really, really easy thing to do when we're able to show unconditional love.
I think that's amazing. So unconditional love, it sounds, and I know it sounds easy for unconditional love. That starts with your loving yourself, loving your closest people to you, finding that you are worthy. This is a challenge.
It's a challenge, but you got to put the mask on yourself before you put it on someone else, right?
Absolutely.
And that's how humans have survived so many generations.
And back into that whole sense of community.
The community, and then decreasing the sense of isolation and loneliness, and we have to kind of take a step back and think, like an audit, like, where am I? What am I doing? Who am I talking to on a daily basis? Is this belief system still serving me, even though at once it did before? That's the most important question.
That's incredible. And then people can be in that community, find that their nervous systems can relax a little bit. They can then open up, allow themselves some of that, more of that unconditional love, and it just seems like it's probably a bit of a cascade where it really just seems to explode for you.
It is a cascade. Health and disease is not a battle. It is a gift for us to look at ourselves deeper, to figure out what reality do we want to live in the future.
Dr. Ron, thank you so much again for being with us today. Will you please let everyone know how they can find you and what you're working on right now?
Yeah, so what I'm working on is a lot of technology and artificial intelligence introduced into medicine so we can actually look at how people are living purposefully. That's what we're doing at Texas Center for Lifestyle Medicine. So we have dietitians and health coaches, we have psychotherapists, et cetera, we have MDs, we have nurse practitioners, a huge team actually. And every member of our team is designed to create that sense of balance, that sense of unconditional love, if you will, so that people can come in and actually feel safe. You can find me, Cheng Ron, MD. I'm on Instagram, I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on Facebook, I'm kind of everywhere. I have a YouTube channel as well. But I'll be putting out a lot more content, and you'll see a lot of me and my family, especially my 3 lovely little girls, as I interact with them. I'm very much into this phase in my life, I'm 41 now, where I want to talk about parenting and love quite a bit.
That's wonderful. Well, thank you again for joining us. Well, thank you so much for joining us at The New Health. Join us again next week when Dr. Ron will be back once again. We'll see you then.
This has been a NowMedia Networks feature presentation. All rights reserved.
Lo hicimos